All right, welcome to episode 6 of Behind the Turf. I'm Phil Jackson, managing partner at Nature's Turf, and joined with me today is...
Oh, me. Ruth.
And Jared Koenig.
Aren't y'all sad that I'm back? Depending on the order that these come out in, you guys just got to meet Zach, who's way cooler than me.
Oh, Jared.
All right, we did bring Jared because today we are talking about thatch and what is thatch. And so real quick before we go too far, our episode today is sponsored by Nature's Turf. Our expert weed elimination and fertilization services guarantee the health of your lawn. At Nature's Turf, our experienced team will make the correct applications at the best time to ensure your lawn is healthy and weed-free.
That's a great ad read for ourselves. That was a really great ad read.
We're so grateful to them.
And if anybody else wants an ad read, contact. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, let's get to it. Let's start off with what is thatch for the people who might be listening that have no idea what we're talking about.
That's a good place to start. I think it's one of the more misunderstood ideas in a landscape. We hear a lot of people being concerned about thatch and wanting to dethatch. Thatch itself is a layer that you can't really see unless you take a profile from underneath the turf grass. And it's a layer of sort of, it's organic material that's sort of semi-alive and semi-dead that mats together and can create a lot of problems. Hydrophobicity, can make it feel spongy. Once it's dried out, it can cause a lot of issues. But it's almost like think of it like a wicker basket, and it's made of like stem materials, root materials, things like that.
All right, and Ruth, go ahead and give us that in English so that everybody can understand.
It's like a layer of twigs and dead grass and things like that.
Like too much of it.
Too
right?
much of it.
Yeah,
Too much of it.
dead grass. And so, Jared, what causes thatch though?
Yeah,
because every lawn has a little bit of it, right?
Yeah,
well, so like there's a threshold.
Thatch, yeah, a threshold's a good word for it because thresholds are, above a certain point is when it starts to become injurious. But every lawn has some of it. It's interesting that Ruth used the terminology of dead grass because a lot of people worry that it is clippings. As we're recording this right now to kind of timestamp when we're doing this in January talking about, but most of the time we're going to get conversations about this in early spring when people see sort of matted leaf material and stuff like that is kind of accumulated maybe where the water runs in your yard and things like that. And those materials actually don't contribute at all to thatch. Thatch is actually created by really poor cultural practices, poor watering, over fertilization, things like that. And what it causes is a very shallow growth of stolons, which are stems that grow sideways, shallow root formation from shallow watering where your roots aren't seeking it out. And so you end up with woody materials shallow and in a large accumulation.
So, Ruth, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do feel like actually it's a common thing where people will call in and say, I've got a thatch problem.
Yeah, I get several calls throughout the year about thatch and people wanting to know if we do anything about it specifically. Yeah. And they're concerned about it, and it's they want to rake it up, things like that. So
I was going to ask you, like, what is the solution? What do clients think they need to do? I guess.
Well, they want to ask if we can do something about it, but they themselves will say, "I'm going to rake it up. Mm-hmm. I'm going to, do some kind of it. It's really some kind of damaging method to get to the thatch, which
people want a power rake or dethatch, which those are certainly, there is a time and a place for dethatching. 100% there's a time and a place for dethatching. It's why the process exists, but it is really injurious. And so a lot of times, it's not necessary, especially in a home lawn. There are certain situations, ball fields, really shortcut turf like tee boxes, fairways, things where people will, go in and do some more aggressive methods. But on a golf course, a 1-to-1 for a golf course area that might be fairly similar to a yard is the rough. And those are, very rarely done in those areas. And it's because it's not really necessary. The juice may be not worth the squeeze when you're talking about potential injury.
But don't you feel like sometimes people think they have a thatch problem when the reality
they really
is
don't.
They've got a problem, and like there's an underlying issue of like maybe that's underneath an oak tree, or there's a heavy runoff area where they're seeing a lot of thatch, but that's just because the turf is thin.
Or they're seeing accumulation of leaf materials that won't contribute to that. Now, getting rid of, we saw this a bunch last year, but getting rid of leaf material that has fallen so it doesn't smother as we get into spring is never a bad idea. You know, lightly raking that to get it out of those areas where there's accumulation, so that way you don't have issues creating new leaf material is a good idea. But those don't contribute to thatch.
But do you feel like, so often I feel like we get these calls about thatches when we've gone through periods of heavy rain where you see like the kind of waves
The
of
wind
thatch
rows.
Yeah. But like, is that always a for sure sign that there's a thatch problem, or is it more just we've had a lot of heavy rain and a lot of maybe healthy amount of thatch has picked up and moved into a certain area?
Yeah, so because of those materials, unless there's like woody stemmy material and stuff in there, those don't contribute to thatch anyway. So those aren't actually an indicator. A lot of times if somebody thinks they have a thatch problem, if you take a soil probe out there and you really kind of get down in there and pull a plug, you'll find that there's a healthy amount of thatch out there.
Right.
But there is not an accumulation that would warrant any sort of additional concern or treatment beyond something like aeration. Liquid aeration can help to move water down into that profile. It can help stimulate microbial activity, which will help get rid of the leaf materials and things like that, and can contribute to increased breakdown of the woodier materials that are causing potential thatch concerns. In more extreme situations, you may want to seek out a landscape operation that offers core aeration. Core aeration is less invasive and offers secondary sort of benefits to dethatching, or in really, really extreme cases, dethatching does exist for a reason, but it should be kind of like a last ditch effort when you know that that's your problem.
Yeah, and Ruth, what are we what is normally when people are calling about this, like what are we suggesting they do?
Aeration.
Yeah.
Making sure you have good cultural practices, mowing regularly so that you aren't getting this huge amount of clippings going down into the grass. So mow regularly, water regularly, and aerate your lawn. All will help with good culture, just to have good cultural practices.
Right. That's what I was wondering if you're going to hit on, was the mowing thing. Like so much of this is very preventable, you know? And so, yes, there's extreme cases where they might need to dethatch, like you said, but the reality is that if we can just get people to mow on a weekly basis, especially during those heavy growing seasons, this really shouldn't be a problem. You correct me if I'm wrong.
No, the best defense against thatch is a really good offense. Making sure that you're doing the right things. Watering deeply is a big one. So, watering 2 to 3 times a week for your total inch accumulation is huge. A lot of times thatch will accumulate in areas where people water kind of every day for a few minutes. And what happens is the profile, it doesn't percolate. It doesn't get down into the profile. So all of the water is shallow. If all the water is shallow, all of the roots are shallow. So if you water deeply, the roots grow down and they grow deeply. If you have Nature's Turf, our title sponsor for fertilization, we take care of making sure that the fertilization amount out there is appropriate for your turf species. So that way you don't have to fear that over fertilization is going to create that shallow growth situation that's going to contribute to thatch. But Ruth nailed it. I mean, it's good cultural practices, and that goes for so many things, but it absolutely does really matter for thatch, and making sure that you don't create an accumulation issue that then you're going to have to alleviate at some point.
Yeah, and it really matters for those peak growing seasons, and unfortunately that's also the time where people take vacations. And so, if you're going out of town for 2 weeks, like find somebody, whether it's a neighbor's kid or, maybe it's a service that's already in your neighborhood that will do it a couple of times while you're gone, because that alone, waiting 3 weeks, by the time you get back,
turf injury, but you're going to be putting stem material on the ground, which is woody and will contribute.
Right.
I guess I should clarify a little bit what I mean by woody materials. Stem materials, root materials, stolons, things like that. They have higher cellulose content. Cellulose is a cell wall component, and that's what wood is. So it's the woodier materials that have a harder time to break down. Leaf materials don't have as much cellulose, so that's why they don't contribute to those thatch layers. Just to clarify. I will say one thing that's nice to talk to people about, because they worry about the leaf accumulation. We get this question a lot, is people wonder if they should bag clippings. They think that bagging clippings is going to help reduce thatch accumulation. We get that, especially as we get deeper into like July, August. If you're watching this then, or if we are sending you this then to listen to, bagging clippings is... You don't have to do it. I hope that's really good news for whoever hears this. As long as you are mowing on a weekly basis, you're reducing injury. You're keeping it to plant material being put down. The only time of year that I really truly suggest bagging clippings is when you're doing a height reset, or if you have Bermuda grass and you want to scalp, and that's something you regularly do, bag those. But that's because you are removing woodier materials at that point. Putting them down can potentially create some smothering, but it could potentially contribute to thatch material as well.
Yep.
All right. Well, that kind of concludes episode 6 of What is Thatch? Do you all have anything else you want to add? I feel like we covered it pretty well.
Yeah. Like I said, I think cultural practices is a huge piece of that puzzle. So remember, you have a living plant,
Always.
Everybody.
Lots and lots of
It's
thousands,
alive.
hundreds of thousands of them, potentially millions in your yard, depending on how big your yard is.
Go sing it a song.
Well, we appreciate everyone tuning in for episode 6, and ask that you continue to listen for episode 7. And if you need anything or have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And thanks again for watching Behind the Turf.